Welcome to History Nuts. I'm Russ Carson Jr., the founder of Family Tree Nuts. At Family Tree Nuts, we build family trees for people, and we produce videos at historic locations and videos that help to honor your ancestors.
I'm Jameson Cable, founder of the Kentucky History Podcast, where we talk about anything Kentucky history, events, people. If it has to do with Kentucky, we're going to discuss it.
And we've teamed up together to bring you History Nuts.
History Nuts is a live show where we talk about, you guessed it, history.
Right. History seems to be less and less to people today, but we are trying to do everything we can to keep it alive.
Absolutely. History is a passion of ours for sure, but it connects to you. Russ, tell us about the best part of the show.
You can join in. You can comment and ask questions live.
We've got a great topic today, and we know you're going to enjoy this episode of
History Nuts.
3, 2. What's going on, guys? What's up, Jameson? Good to see you again, buddy. Yeah, we've got a great show today. It's last week, we did Kit Carson, the famous Carson, one of the best names in all time. Now we're doing your people, right? The Mayos. Well, I thought that's what you said. Isn't that didn't you say that you guys way back came from money, and things like that, and were attached to the Mayos? And
it's not paid out any that I know of, at least.
Yeah, well, it usually goes in thirds. By the third generation, the money's gone. So
okay, well, that explains it all. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So who are we talking about tonight?
John C.C. Mayo, a man that a lot of people don't know about, but I kind of feel like if you're from Kentucky, you should definitely know about. But really, he had some national implications as well. So, very important figure from Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, and maybe that was because it was just for a flash, just for a short time, There's a short life, and I don't want to go into that too much, but Linda says, hey, good evening, and I'm glad she said that, Linda Bales. Make sure you ask us some questions, like we say every time that we don't know everything about these things, but we know quite a bit about them, but ask us some questions and chime in with some comments too, help us out. Along the way, comment where you're from and things like that too. So,
and don't forget to share. You can share it out, like the post.
Yeah, absolutely, and I see there's 17 people watching right now there, but what we find is like over the next couple of days that this gets seen 1,000 times, kind of thing. Yeah. So you can watch this at any time. So if you're watching right now and you don't feel like watching the rest of it, and you got stuff to do, go do your stuff, and you can tune back in later on today or tomorrow or next week and watch the rest of it. So, But all right, so I'm going to kind of digress a little bit and let you lead through Mr. John C.C. Mayo.
Well, John Caldwell Calhoun Mayo. Where does that name come from? I'll start off with that.
Well, I'm guessing the Calhoun, was he named after the senator from South Carolina?
Oh, yeah.
Name, or?
Yes, that's who's named it. And that's the thing you find out a lot in Kentucky.
I was guessing.
I guessing? Well, that's it, yeah. Good guess. If you look back in like a lot of Kentucky, and you can attest this with genealogy, I'm sure, oftentimes people would name their kids after their kind of affiliation, if it was a northern supporting family or a southern supporting family, which is kind of ironic because with his family, like they were Democrats, but like at the time it was still pretty heated contra, or which side were you on kind of thing. And he was born like I don't know, I think 10 years after the Civil War or so. I don't know exactly his exact birth date right off the top of my head, but so it was a big deal. It's naming your kid after a strong Southern Democrat was kind of a statement. So
I was wondering what you would say, 62?
I think so. Yeah, it was.
He was 49 when he died. So yeah, that would have been 62.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
14, something like that. But
look at you.
But that's right. That's
64.
Right.
64.
64.
I got it right here in my notes.
Towards the end of the Civil War there, but definitely. So yeah, that definitely plays into who he is and demographics of the area where he was from too. Monica says, greetings from one of your biggest fans. Now, she didn't say that was me or you, Jameson, so I'm just going to, I guess that means probably you right there.
I'll take that, yeah.
Randall Osborne's coming in from Pikeville. He said he was born October 1864.
Yeah, well, he's probably gonna know this is right in his neck of the woods as far as
definitely.
Yeah. So
I'd be curious to know if Randall likes him, because that's what we're going to talk about. Is this guy a hero or a goat?
Yeah, hero or zero, man. That's a
hero or zero.
That's a big. We'll wait for that. We'll talk about him first, and we'll get into that. Because
so Randall, make sure you chime in and let us know what your opinion is in that area. So his dad was a Confederate soldier in the 10th Kentucky Cavalry. Died in his 10th.
There you go. And that's bringing up that. So he came from a line of teachers, actually. Like his great grandfather, I think, came over here from Virginia, and he actually had the coolest thing. He wrote a book of arithmetic on deerskin. So that is pretty cool. That he was and he came. His purpose, his great grandfather, his purpose was to come to this area or Eastern Kentucky area and set up a school and teach the people of Eastern Kentucky, and that kind of do what.
They were an early pioneer family, weren't they?
Yeah.
And they were from the metropolis of what's the name of that little map dot? Up in Pike County, middle of nowhere. At least today's in the middle of nowhere where they're from. So his son, I think his son wasn't a teacher, his grandson was, back and forth. But old Mayo started out as a teacher as well, and which back in the day you would teach and you would actually live at some of your students' houses and stuff, which would have been, how would you like to do that?
That sounds
You're
terrible.
A teacher.
Sounds terrible.
You're a teacher. Do you get to pick which ones? Or?
I guess whichever one.
Or you got to rotate.
So you got to pick. You got to pick right unless you want to lose your mind, I guess.
No doubt. No doubt.
But he was a teacher for a while. He went to Kentucky Wesleyan, and it was in Paris in Bourbon County at the time.
Yeah, Millersburg. Yeah.
But then I think it's in Owensboro now. I think.
Yeah, it's in Owensboro. The Panthers out there. But did you know that the school? I'm almost certain it was in Winchester originally. Right there
it may
in the middle of town.
It's moved quite a few times, I think.
Right.
It's an old school, but
it's right there by the old YMCA. Was the original Kentucky Wesleyan. Then it moved to Millersburg. Now out at Owensville. Rowena says, hi from Goff's Corner. Do you know where Goff's Corner is, Jameson?
I do not know where Goff's Corner is. Oh.
Yeah, that is Skippakathicki, Indian Oldfields. That's out there it's out there in western Clark County, right near Pilot Knob and Powell County, Mountain Parkway out there. So
there you go.
Randall said it works both ways. He's working on a manuscript. I guess that's about Mayo. So maybe we need to have him on as a guest very soon. He said he qualified as a goat and a hero.
Well, I read a book, just a biography about his life. I got it from Berea College a while. I don't know, it's probably been 10 months ago or so, and it was really good. I mean, historical read, obviously, but talked a lot about his life, and that's kind of where I got most of my information at. But
he was a school teacher. That's why he was a millionaire, right?
Yeah. Let's show his house. You want to show his house?
That's a good time. There you go.
Yeah, this is all from teacher money. We're
going to going to show a video right now of.
This is the Mayo Mansion.
Hang with us there, but you can get an idea of the kind of money this guy had.
Yeah, we'll start from one side to the other. He began as a teacher, but this is where he ended up in the Mayo Mansion.
A smaller home was originally planned by Mr. Mayo, but he decided to build a larger one in 1905, wanting to create a home that would be the envy of the Lexington Bluegrass area homes. The house is based on Green Hill, the home of Colonel James Ben Hagen. The architect was J.R. Gieske of Cerrito, West Virginia. It took 7 years to complete from 1905 to 1912. The area was very swampy, so the land had to be filled in. The stone for the foundation and coins was quarried from the Mayo farm just as it was for the church. Italian stonemasons moved from Cincinnati to dress the stone on site and at the quarry. The left side of the mansion was the men's side. The men's drawing room was downstairs with Mr. Mayo's bedroom directly above, decorated in blue and with a private bath. The right side for women with a drawing room below and Mrs. Mayo's bedroom directly above, decorated in pink and green. There was also a music room with a pink and green Steinway piano. The home has 3 stories, 40 rooms, and a full basement. At the time, the construction costs were $250,000, which translates to approximately $5 million in today's money. Court Street between the church and the mansion is still paved with brick. Up towards the end of the street where Court Street meets 5th Street is called Happy Hollow. Tradition has it that this was called that because most of the Italian stonemasons lived up that way. There was often music and laughter heard from that area, with residents commenting, "That must be a really happy holler." The building in the corner of the yard was Mayo's business office. The stone fence was built for little more than $5,000. Sadly, Mr. Mayo was only able to enjoy his home for 2 years. He died in New York on May 11, 1914 at 2:30 in the afternoon of Bright's disease, a sickness of the kidney. Nearly 5,000 people attended his funeral. The governor, James B. McCreary, brought a delegation of state officials. From the announcement of Mayo's death until after the funeral, all the town's businesses and banks were closed. After Mayo's death, his widow met and married Dr. S.P. Fetter and, complaining of the poor roads, left Paintsville and lived the rest of her life in Ashland, Kentucky.
All right.
Wow.
Big house.
Wow. Didn't you say that was your parents' house? I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah.
They live there now?
Yeah, my mom's a teacher too, so no, we didn't live in it like that.
40 rooms.
I know that's
40 rooms. And a men's side and a women's side.
Yeah, and I mean the thought. I think it said $250,000 to build then. So now you're looking at millions of dollars to build that house. It just goes to show you.
6 million, yeah.
It just goes to show you how much labor it took to build that house at that time. It didn't mention that in the video, but when it first was built, it didn't have electricity. I mean, it had lamps and all that sort of thing until a little bit later that were they able to get electricity to it. But I think at one time, we'll hold off on that part. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back in the future here when he was teaching, or when he went to Kentucky Westland, because that kind of ignites, I would say, his drive, to say it that way. He, of course, was a mountain boy or a mountain man, however you want to describe it. But he goes to Kentucky Westland, and he is introduced to bluegrass boys. So there becomes this big, you can call it feud or resentment between him and the bluegrass boys. So he's a mountain man, and these bluegrass boys, he wants the success and the notoriety for his part of Kentucky as versus what the bluegrass boys are got, or the bluegrass region is getting. So that becomes this big kind of focal point in his drive to show people what Eastern Kentucky has and what can what wealth and greatness is in Eastern Kentucky. So say it that way.
He had a chip on his shoulder pretty much the rest of his life, didn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of thing about that. He really, meaning against the kind of the establishment from the bluegrass kind of thing. He became a rival of them.
You could say
that
the Kentucky establishment or the Kentucky hierarchy, which filtered out of the bluegrass. Most of the wealth in Kentucky at that time was in the bluegrass, horses and so forth, farming and all that.
Which kind of feeds into Goebel, as we talked about. It's about the same time.
Well, it is about the same time, and we can there's a connection or two there we can make here in a little bit. But anyway, so that was his big drive.
Ahead, huh? Yeah.
I know we going through his life, or we're jumping back and forth. But we'll get to the good stuff, I guess, is the big thing. So he goes back to Eastern Kentucky. He's still teaching. He goes back between Pikeville and Paintsville, not necessarily those cities, but just the counties and so forth.
Yeah.
But he really kind of, starts the idea of buying land, and he knows that the coal is like literally, cropping out of the ground. You can see it when you're traveling, and that it's a big, there's money to be made there. So he goes and starts buying land, and I'm talking about buying land like crazy. He gets a little bit of, what little money he's making as a teacher, it can't be much, but he's buying land everywhere. He gets some business partners, of course, and buys more land, and some of them kind of get even shaking, like some of them back out, but he keeps buying land. But you can have land, but where are you gonna get any money from it?
Right.
So you're gonna have to. The what?
From the crops, right?
Well, from the coal. I mean, the coal's in the land, but I mean, he has the coal.
Be facetious there, but yeah, I know that's where you're leading me to there. But from the minerals.
Yeah.
Mineral rights.
Yeah. So there's that, but still, there's one big problem he has. And you can have all the coal in the world you want. You can have all the land in the world you want, but you got to get it out of there. And that's the one hiccup. He kind of, his biggest hurdle he has to get over is connecting Eastern Kentucky to the rest of the world, or the rest of the nation, to say it that way.
Sure. Roads has been a problem for everything, up there, even to today, as one reason why, in some ways, Eastern Kentucky has been left behind in time. And things are changing dramatically, even in the last 20 or 30 years. But roads is the biggest problem of getting things in and out of there. So
yeah, so he's getting, his biggest thing is getting the railroads connected to Eastern Kentucky, because at the time he's buying land, and there is coal mining, of course, is going on. It's not just newly established. It's been going on, just nothing to the magnitude that it could get to. They sail the coal down on barges, and the Big Sandy and those sorts, just whatever river is basically how they can do it. But he gets to a point where he's putting in all these deeds. He comes up with a broad form deed, and it's a huge deed. It's huge to read. I've read most of it, I think. But it's so wordy. There's so much to go into it. And it's basically, you give up the rights to the land, the minerals, and pretty much they can do whatever they want to get the coal out and so forth. So he starts buying more land, and of course, and it gets to the point where he has like thousands of acres, and in Eastern Kentucky. But still, he still doesn't have no way to get out the coal. So he keeps on kind of it's crazy to think how he managed his money to where he was still making a profit, but he was buying land all at the same time. At one point, it said that the entire community of Paintsville was being, not all at the same time, but at one point, the entire community of Paintsville has either done work for him or was doing work for him, which is quite amazing when you think of we're not talking about a million people, but a lot of people there in a small town. He was pretty much kind of like the head honcho, and his family controlled a lot of the political aspects of it. Pretty much, if you got his blessing, that pretty much meant you would get elected. And of course, it was I'm pretty sure it was pretty much Democrat. He did do. I'll backtrack a little bit because I brought Democrat. But so after the Civil War, there's a big divide. Like they even had to divide, a Republican school and a Democrat school. And at one point, when he came back to teach, he actually was able to unify the two schools and bring them together. So that's a positive.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. We talk about how divided things are right now, but they've been a lot more divided before. So this is nothing new.
Yeah,
and nothing new at all. Sue says, hello from Indian Oldfields, and on this 157th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address.
Hey, maybe we should have.
Can you? Yeah, maybe we should have done that, huh? Can you recite it?
Do what?
Can you recite the Gettysburg Address?
No, I can't. Can you?
Most of it.
Most of it.
That'll be for another show, but she said it's not Mayo related, but he was born near or towards the end of the war. And yes, Kentucky Wesleyan was in Winchester, where College Park is now located.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's where they have the Daniel Boone Festival out there. And Rowena says her sister-in-law attended Our Lady. Randall said he thinks the house was first heated by carbide.
Wow.
Acetylene? Don't you teach English?
Yeah, but acetylene does not sound like a word. Acetylene, acetylene.
I know what he's talking about. That's seen that before. He also said land itself became a burden with taxes, upkeep, poachers, illegal timbering, etc. He soon learned that if he separated coal from the surface, it was harder to tax and no issue with protecting it. And Rowena said, was Mayo the father of the broad form deed? I think you've talked about that before.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, yeah, he's the one who created it. Now, Randall says too, there was other forms, of course, and he wasn't the only person doing this. I can't think of the guy. There was a guy in in Perry County around Hazard, who was pretty much doing the same thing, trying to buy up land. And really, it was a pretty massive gamble. They were buying all up of this land, just hoping that they could get a connection and get the coal out. And of course, these coal mines were popping up as well. But that was the big thing, is bringing in the coal, or bringing in the railroad. And it got to a point to where he had this big caravan, is what it's kind of called, caravan. A caravan of all these big donors. I guess you probably can call them donors. I guess they were just the head people of these railroads. So we had the Chesapeake and Ohio come in, the Louisville and the Nashville, I think, came in, and he pretty much put them against each other. And it was like, we got all this, and like it took them to the coast, or the mountains, the places where they could see kind of the richness of the land and what they had there to offer. It's really funny, or it's really crazy, that like how much money he had, because he would then, this big caravan, like he had the caravan of the investors, but then he had another wagon or 2 or 3 wagons ahead of that caravan who would go set up the place, set everything up, so when the investors got there, they would then be able to eat and so forth. And then the workers would then move ahead so far, and kind of it was like a train of getting things ready, people come in and eat, let people move forward and so forth. But the amount of money he had is just kind of mind-boggling to me, because you talk about his house. These people were moving these stones for miles. It wasn't easy at all, and he had to pay these people. He brought people in from Ohio or Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and immigrants and all these. Like, he had loads of people just coming to build his house, and which he had a lot of money, so he had the money to spend, so he got what he wanted.
Yeah, it started from nothing. Self-made man, for sure.
Yeah.
Came from a very, very modest background. They says it basically is same as welding gas. Worked on a principle of a carbide lamp, and both Rowena and Randall said acetylene.
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 Okay. Yeah.
Acetylene is how you say that. Randall also said that was Logan Sawyer, former Confederate colonel from Virginia, was buying land in Perry County. I'm sure that he is who Salyersville is named after, I'm sure. So, but yeah, man. So why is he such a hated guy? I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a school teacher and self-made man, and bought up land, is what you're telling me. He bought up land. What the heck is wrong with that? Why is he such a hated guy by so many people?
Well, I don't know I don't know if you could. I don't know if you accurately say that he's hated, because I don't know a lot of people. A lot of people don't know about him. To my knowledge.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, in history, the way that history looks at it.
Well, yeah. Okay. The way, yeah. Well, to throw some good light on him, he started a school there in Paintsville. It eventually became. Oh man, it just left me. It's the something school of women, I think. No, I got it written down here somewhere.
I'm sure Randall knows. Come on, Randall.
Yeah, come on, Randall. Help me out here. But anyway, he started a school and it grew. He donated. He built a church there. He did donate a lot of money, but he also owned the bank, and he had a lot of money. I can't think of the name of that house or the school. It's
did a lot. But
he did a lot. Yeah, he did a lot. He had loads of pride for Eastern Kentucky and his homeland. If you want to call it like that. He truly did love his land, his area. But he kind of got a little greedy, I guess you could say it that way, with the way he bought up land. You think about this. He goes into this plot of land. He talks to this old farmer who's lived there for years and says, hey, I'm going to give you all this gold or silver and all this money, for your land, for the mineral rights. And the farmer, probably not literate, doesn't really, has this kind of fancy looking guy come in and kind of talking all smooth and talking his language, that's the thing, like other people from around may try to come into Eastern Kentucky and buy up land, but Mayo knew how to talk to these people. It wasn't just, hey, I got this money. It was, hey, how's your crops doing? It was just a long process of just explaining and talking and kind of getting to know them before he just went in there and said, hey, I got some money for you, buy it. Then you throw in this big deed and say, hey, this is all what it says. I can read it to you if you want me to. Kind of like a car dealer mentioned, if you want to say it that way. They throw you this loan paper. Come on, just sign it. And the payment's cheap. You can handle it. And they kind of got swindled, I guess, if you want to say it that way. They were definitely. I feel like they were definitely taken advantage of, because they may have still been able to live on the land, but the company could come in and do whatever they had to do to get the coal out.
And they did. They did. That's what Randall said. It was maybe not so much Mayo, but what the coal companies did after, he sold the mineral rights. And these people were, he paid. The biggest thing is that he paid pennies on the dollar. You know what I'm saying? I come from those people. Those are my ancestors. They didn't. All they're worried about is getting their crop in, and with that extra money, they could buy them another milk cow, something like that, and maybe another ox, make their life just moderately easier. What do I care about the minerals? You talking about some black stuff in the ground that I don't even need, kind of thing. Yeah. But of course I'll sell it to you. They probably thought the joke was on him.
They thought they were getting a big deal. But
another all over Eastern Kentucky. So.
Another interesting thing. So Mayo was going around buying land, but he would also send his, friends, coworkers, however you want to say it. They would go around and buy land as well. So it was constant. He traveled so much on horseback in the mountains, so much. There wasn't, like we said, the roads weren't smooth. He's going up and around mountains, buying up land. He would send his wife, sometimes would come with him, or send her with a colleague, and she would have gold coins laced inside her dress, so that in the event that somebody says robs them or something like that, they wouldn't have anything on her, or they couldn't physically see, where the money may have been. To my knowledge, I don't think they were ever robbed or anything like that. I think I would know, or that would be a pretty big event.
Because back then they're paying in cash, weren't they? It wasn't like we go down to the bank and draft up some paperwork. Mm-hmm. We'd sit down at your table and, and I got some papers for you to sign and give you some gold right there. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, well, Randall said that he donated money to the Kentucky Confederate Veterans Home there at Pee Wee Valley. Mm-hmm. And is that home still open? The Confederate Veterans Home?
I don't know. I doubt it.
Come on, Jameson.
You say things so seriously there, and I'm like,
guys would be like 180 years old or something like that. So. But Randall also said there's a standard formula for calculating tons of coal to the acre. The buyers knew exactly what they were getting.
Mm-hmm.
The buyers knew exactly, but until the railroad came, the coal was just dead weight.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing too. Mayo was really good at math. I mean, he was when he was at Kentucky Westland. Like he actually, taught classes. I guess I don't exactly know how to. I guess you would say he was a grad assistant, but yet I don't think he ever actually graduated from college. But he was very good at math. But he eventually, of course, as we said, the railroad came, and he was able to convince them to invest in Eastern Kentucky and build the railroad. And I mean, it just boomed. He had all this land, he had all the rights, the minerals, and he got rich. He got rich as can be, rich enough to build a 40-home house in Eastern Kentucky in the early 1900s.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. While many people were living in shacks for the next 70 years, kind of thing at that point. So Randall said that the Rebel Veterans Home is long gone, James. Long gone. So, but yeah. He also said you take the weight of a $10 gold coin piece and how many it takes for $10,000. Said that lady would have had about 35 pounds sewed into her hem of her dress.
Yeah.
She probably had some strong calves.
I'd say so.
Yeah, she didn't skip leg day, did she?
Yeah. Now, if we want to, talking about his wife, the rumor about his wife is that Mayo was dating a lady, and he got sick, and he went to a hotel there in Paintsville, and she would call or telegraph, not call, in messages for Mayo. However, Mayo would not be able to get them. He never would get these messages because the daughter of the hotel, her nickname is Alki, she wouldn't give the messages to Mayo, and then she swooped in and began.
I knew a few people named
Mayo.
Alki.
Well, it's a very odd term, very odd nickname to give your daughter, I guess.
Yeah, I could think of some more in terms of endearing than Alki. So.
And what's another connection or side note is I think it's pronounced Thalke, and it's a coal community there in Eastern Kentucky. It is named after her, which it was actually named after a boat. But anyway, that's a side story. We can talk about that later. But anyway, still, his wife was very unique, and she moved away. I think she actually went to Florida for a little bit, then moved to Ashland, she tried, I think, after his death to kind of support his legacy the best she could, but eventually she moved on. Moved on
to the big metropolis of Ashland.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets a lot of money, and he gets filthy rich. He builds a huge house. And he is deep into politics, like we were saying. Talking about Goebel and all this kind of stuff. He, I believe, supported the Democratic candidate that was going against Goebel, but then that candidate dropped out, in the primaries or whatever, and he ended up backing Goebel. Now, you can also make the rumors that at some point he may have wanted to run for governor, and I mean he was the richest man in Kentucky during the early 1900s by far, but he never he ended up dying. He was just getting his, I guess, political feet steady when he ended up getting sick and so forth.
He could have lived another 30 years. Thing. So it's really, it really could have brought a whole lot more to Eastern Kentucky, because it was later in his life where he was trying to, he's giving back a whole lot there, in the later years. But the other thing that one reason why people didn't like him back then, so is that the coal companies started coming in and started using the coal, but a lot of them would destroy the creeks, poison the creeks and things like that, and people couldn't farm the land on there anymore. They still own the land, but they lost the mineral rights, and this is before EPA and all that other stuff. And it basically run families off their land, that they sold out for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, whenever he, like I said, 5,000 people came to his funeral. So before, and I think Randall brought up investors from Chicago. So at the World's Fair in Chicago, coal was the Kentucky Coal had a booth up there to sell. And I'm not sure if he was actually there, but he had a big influence in putting on the show and all that. So that was a big thing for investors, is trying to get those people to come in.
Which World's Fair?
The Chicago World's Fair. I think it was 1890.
96 maybe?
1890. Yeah. The Chicago World Fair.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the same World's Fair that discovered old Nancy Green and Aunt Jemima kind of thing. So, but another story there. But
yeah, another story.
Must have been a big fair. It was a big fair.
Yeah, big fair, man.
That year.
So he gets, but he gets, he's getting his political feet wet. I guess on the state level, he was a national delegate a few times on the national level as well. He is making a lot of money, and then he gets sick, and he gets badly sick. He actually I think he went to France, and he kind of came back and was a little sick, got a little under the weather, but bounced back, and then he went on another trip, but then on that trip he got deathly sick, the Bright's disease. But he had loads of money. They actually took him from Cincinnati on a train to New York to get more, better doctors, and they gave him I guess it would be a blood fusion, right? Whenever you take blood from somebody else and put it into you, it took some from his brother, I believe, but he died, and everybody was sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 5,000 people came to his funeral.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's
But maybe he paid him to come. I don't know, but
at some point he probably did. But so yeah, he was a good promoter, and he's a big salesman. I mean, he was. He was definitely a good salesman. What's sad though, and I guess when we kind of get into the negative about him, is like there was a note from his son had mentioned. Like they had asked him a question about how he, knew, or what he had to say about his father, and he said he wished he knew more to say because his father was so busy that he hardly got to see him some. He was, just on the move so much, traveling so much, making that sale, promoting. So that gets into the big topic. Was he good, or was he a hero or a zero, man? What do you think?
I guess it's like everything else in history. You've got to, you've got to take it in perspective of the time and take it in. It depends on whose eyes you're looking through.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So there was hundreds of, you could call them ripped off people. I don't want to say victimized, but kind of ripped off legally.
Taken advantage of, you could say.
Yeah, taken advantage of, but... if you're operating within the laws and things like that. But of course, you have to have a conscience, I guess. But I mean, being a sales myself, for so many years, there's a phrase that's out there: as long as and I don't really like this phrase, but as long as the customer is happy with the product they got and they're happy with what they paid for it, who cares what they paid for it?
Yeah.
Is what a lot of people will say, but I kind of think that's a crappy way to go, and some karma coming on you eventually, kind of thing. I feel like you gotta look out for people a little bit, but maybe that's why I'm probably not a millionaire and never will be. So, but you got to be a little vicious if you're going to get to that level, in a lot of different places, and so I don't know. in the long term, it definitely brought an industry to Eastern Kentucky that has had definite ups and downs over the years. But without that coal industry, it's a wonder what there would be up there.
True.
Just because of the topography, you can't put factories up there, and get products out because the roads are not so good. So I don't know. You can only lumber and timber so much. I know they grow a lot of marijuana up there, is what I'm told, and moonshine and things. But
that's illegal. That don't help.
Right. So I don't know. I want to give you an answer. Is he a hero or a goat? But
that's what, like we said with many times. I feel like reading the biography and looking into it, I think he all had good intentions, and the way he kind of died, kind of right at that peak moment when everything was kind of hitting for him, tarnishes what he may have wanted to do. Like if he would have stayed alive, say 10, he might have ran for governor. He could have set up some more safety nets or things where people wouldn't have been taken advantage of. You got to look on the other hand. He did bring in an industry and provided loads of people with jobs. Now to say those people were taken advantage of 10, 20 years down the road, you can't foresee everything, and you can't just sit here and blame one guy on that, obviously.
Sure.
But did he take advantage of people he was selling his land for? Probably did. But was his intentions negative or bad? Not. You can't say that either, because you don't know what somebody else's head.
Well, with his donate, if he did feel any guilt, he definitely kind of tried to level the balances there.
He by far gave plenty to the community.
Sure.
Not to say he could have gave more, of course. He could have, but that's to each his own. Who's to make that level or at that bar.
Sure.
It's like the communion plate at church. You put in how much you want, or how much you can, not a certain amount. So.
Right.
But interesting fella. Interesting. So I'd say one of the most looked over people. It's definitely in Kentucky history, because being a teacher and going to public school, I had no idea this guy existed until I started looking into it myself.
He's in a dead period in history too. He's in a dead period. It's not post Civil War. Once we get post Civil War, pretty much most of us look to the Old West. We're looking at cowboys and stuff going on out in Arizona.
Kit Carson.
Kit Carson, things like that, and he's pre World War I, so it's kind of a dead period where we don't talk about a lot of things that happened in our area. And he's not somebody that was a politician. He was an influencer of politicians and of politics, but he's not a war hero. But he's a businessman that had a tremendous impact on an economy of a region. But he's definitely somebody that's why people don't know about him, I guess. The main reasons, I would think so.
Yeah, I think Randall's got a pretty good little comment here. But if you sell a shoddy product or give somebody a raw deal, happiness is short-lived once they figure it out. So it was with the coal buyers.
But I'll counter that. That there's a sucker born every minute. So you just gotta change your game, So
and he says too, Mayo never produced a lump of coal. He knew the money was in owning the coal and leasing it out. And very true. He was a smart businessman. And you got to look at too. Driven by, you could say greed. He wanted to make money and make his community or his region prominent. And in a turn, though, you could even say that him doing that, the way he went about it, ended up in the long haul making his region a negative light. I guess looked on his region. You could say it that way, but I like Eastern Kentucky a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. You won't find any better people on earth, I don't believe. I've been all over the place, but that's for certain. But better not tell them you're not from there. So, but that's a whole nother show. So, good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good one there. Anything else you want to add about Mr.
Mayo.
John C.C. Mayo?
If you want to go to the Kentucky History Podcast, we did about 4 episodes on him. I mean, it was a lot, and there's just a lot to think about when you're looking at him. Just some of the things he kind of got into. We get into way more detail than this. But it's a really interesting guy. It should be taught about, learn about more. You should know about him if you're from Kentucky, I think. So
sure, absolutely.
So
yeah, man. Randall said, "Good show, loved it." Yeah, man. So what are we going to do next week?
Well, next week is Thanksgiving, so I mean, I would assume people ain't gonna want to listen to us.
I'll probably be passed out in the chair by then,
Yeah. The football, right? Football on Thanksgiving, and
there's football on every day, man.
Buckeyes are 4-0. Is that what they are?
There'll always be, they always have the O at the end, They're most always, but I root for multiple teams. I have dual citizenship, so I root for the blue team too. So
they're going to beat Alabama. You just wait and see.
I hope so, because I am sick and tired of that team. Sick and tired of Alabama. My gosh, they're good. They're good.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 weeks to think about it, I guess, or a week. 2 weeks to think about who to talk about next. So,
yeah, man. So, good deal.
Yep.
Good deal, man. So, I guess we'll sign off for now. And we've got all kinds of stuff going on at Family Tree Nuts too. So, tons of video projects and family trees are being built right now. So, it's been an exciting time for us. I've been laying low trying to get organizational stuff done. We've grown so much. Hey, I'll say this too early. Tomorrow, Family Tree Nuts turns 3.
Woohoo!
We're 3 years old. So
celebration.
We're almost out of diapers. So, Tara Hall says, do either of you have episodes that go into the history of Flemingsburg? My brick wall is from there.
Not yet, but we're working on it. I mean, we'll get to. We got some episodes about certain counties: Lincoln County, Rockcastle County, and Garrett County, and we will eventually, as far as the Kentucky History Podcast, we'll eventually get to all the counties, but like Flemingsburg, the towns, and so forth.
Tara, we did a show on Franklin Sousley. One of the flag raisers at Iwo Jima there in Elizaville. But get with me offline and let's see about doing some stuff up that way, because one of the things we're getting ready to do is work with multiple counties over here to start producing some of their history videos and things. But if you know some things about Flemingsburg, we'd love to work with you on that. I don't know where you live, Tara, but my wife has ancestors there in Fleming County, so it's definitely a unique spot there for sure. So a lot of history there. But all right, brother. I guess we'll sign off then. Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, happy Thanksgiving.
For Jay missing cable.
I'm thankful for Russ Carson as well.
There you go. So, all righty, brother. I guess we'll sign off now. Jordan, we're taking off. And hey, remember, Family Tree Nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
Man, I wish I had written down Grandma's stories. How many times do we hear that statement? Way too often, our ancestors' priceless stories die with them and are lost forever. At Family Tree Nuts, we conduct and video document what we call life interviews. We sit down with your elder family member for hours and ask them questions all about their life, from their childhoods to the present day. What was their favorite thing to do for fun when they were a kid? Tell us about your grandparents. What places did you live? Who were your friends? How did you meet your spouse? The list is endless. Sometimes family members like to sit in on the interview and ask the questions. We professionally film, produce, and publish the interview into short story clips, as well as the full interview onto our YouTube channel. These videos are easy to be shared with all of your family, easy to find for the rest of your life, and your descendants will see them for centuries. You will always be able to go back and hear the stories of your family member in their own voices. Many times, the whole family chips in to have a life interview made for their family member, It makes a wonderful gift. And sometimes folks choose to have their own life interview made as a gift to their entire family. Imagine having a life interview made of your third great grandfather that fought in the Civil War. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here. Your great grandchildren are going to be able to watch the life interview. Don't live with regret after your loved one passes on. Honor them with a life interview. Contact us for details.